This is Dustin, and you're listening to my favorite podcast, The Cryptid Creature Show, with Todd and Brian.
We're heading back to our parents' house, and we're kind of stuck in a little bit of traffic. And I was just kind of looking out the window going, when's this traffic going to move? And then I'm like, oh, there's a wolf, a big black wolf. And then I look at it really closely, and I'm like, that thing is crouching, like full on, one knee on the ground, one arm on its leg, one hand on the ground, like crouching. And I'm just like, what in God's name is that thing?
This is the Cryptid Creature Show. I am Brian, and with me as always my co-host Todd. What's up, buddy?
Brian, my friend, we got a twofer going on again tonight. We got two guests coming on the show.
All right, I like the double whammies.
Yeah, we do too. Mix it up a little bit as always. Our first guest is Cameron, and Cameron saw a Dogman creature.
Ooh, Dogman.
In Michigan. Not too far from where we're at, honestly. And then we're going to bring on Athena and her husband, Henry, who saw some strange UFO-type entities going on. They said they were not planes. We'll talk to them and see what's going on after we talk to Cameron.
All right.
So, without any further ado, shall we bring these guests on? Are you ready?
Yep, let's get him. There he is. How you doing,
Hey,
Cameron?
guys. Yeah, not bad.
Hey, Cameron, thanks for being on the show with us tonight.
Hey, no problem. I love listening to your show, guys.
Well, appreciate it, man.
Oh, thanks. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So you're up there in Michigan? Is that where you're at right now?
No, I'm Canadian.
Okay.
My wife was from Michigan.
Okay.
My ex-wife, I should say. Sorry.
Okay. So you had this encounter in Michigan. Back, what year was it?
I'm gonna say it was 2010, 2011.
Okay. And where about in Michigan did this happen?
So we were driving down US 12 between Saline and Clinton.
Okay.
So it's just on the other side of Ann Arbor. And we're kind of, it's a little hazy. It's been a long time.
That's okay. So just go ahead and tell us what was going on. You guys were just heading somewhere, and then what happened and what you saw.
We're heading back to our parents' house, and we're kind of stuck in a little bit of traffic. And there was kind of like this little, like there was a farm across the road on our left, and then on our right was like this clearing with a little bit of trees. And I was just kind of looking out the window going, when's this traffic going to move? And then I'm like, oh, there's a wolf, a big black wolf. And then I look at it really closely, and I'm like, that thing is crouching, like full on, one knee on the ground, one arm on its leg, one hand on the ground, like crouching. And I'm just like, what in God's name is that thing? And then the traffic moved, and I never really got to go look at it again. So after I got home and I did a Google search, I found out that I saw the Michigan Dogman.
Can you describe this thing from head to toe for us, what you saw?
It looked like, at first glance, it looked like your average, everyday wolf, like pointy ears, muzzle, the whole works, black fur. But it was, it's just the way it was crouching like a human. Like when you think of like the way like Batman and like sit on roofs with like the one knee down and the one hand kind of down on the ground.
Did you see it stand up before you went?
No, it stayed crouching.
How long were you looking at this thing?
It's been about a good 5-10 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay. Could you tell for the audience what the face and head looked like?
Like your basic like dog, like wolf face, like big long muzzle, pointy ears, kind of almost brownish yellow eyes. Like it had weird eyes. I couldn't really see any teeth. Like its mouth was closed, and it just seemed to be like just staring like intently at the rows of traffic.
Do you think anyone else saw it?
I have no idea. A lot of people, they don't pay attention to what's going on around them.
Did you believe in anything like this before you saw that happen, or?
I've always been a firm believer in cryptids. I mean, like, I grew up watching, In Search of, and reruns of In Search of anyways. And my mom's from Scotland, so we took a trip there and I got to go to Loch Ness and all that stuff. So.
Oh, nice.
And didn't see anything, sadly. But yeah, no, I've always
you're up there in Canada, right? So that's
Yeah.
that's like Bigfoot Central up there. So what part of Canada?
I'm kind of like southeastern Ontario, so like close to Toronto. So we're not exactly like Bigfoot territory.
It's kind of funny you say Scotland. I was talking to some guys tonight. We're talking about Scotia. Do you know what Scotia is?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like something close to or something like that? Just a Scotia down the road or something like that?
I mean, like a short distance.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts about Dogman? What do you think it is? Do you think it's a natural creature? Do you think it's alien? Do you think it was come through a portal?
When it comes to with things like Dogman and Bigfoot and all these other things, I do think they're natural. I think they're just like not exactly an aberration, but just like evolution went a different way with these things. Like they're not alien in nature. They're not from another dimension. They're just whatever forces created life on Earth, and all the animals that we're aware of created the animals that we are unaware of.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of creatures out there. I mean, I don't know what your belief is. If you follow any kind of religion or if you're spiritual, you have to understand that there's a higher creation and they've created all kinds of different things in this world. And the weird thing is why didn't we know? Why don't we, if these things are out there, why don't we know about them? Like Bigfoot, why aren't we being told? We obviously know that Bigfoot's being covered up, but what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, like the reason why we don't know about these things is if we do know they were real, then we'd go out and friggin' blast them in smithereens. Like there'd be hunters out there every day, bringing in Bigfoot carcasses, and trawlers would be going for, Champ and Ogopogo and all these things. It's if they are being covered up by the government or whatever, it's for their safety. It's not for our safety. It's for the safety of these creatures, because we don't know what kind of breeding population they have. They don't know if they're the last of their kind, how long they live for. Like it's I think it's definitely for the safety of the creatures and less for our safety.
And you saw this creature around Ann Arbor. That's what you said, right?
It was between Saline and Clinton, so it's just a little, like maybe half an hour south of Ann Arbor.
Okay.
Southwest.
We've heard of the Michigan Dogman, where there's so many sightings up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Why do you think there's so many sightings in Michigan itself?
I mean, from what I've seen of Michigan, I haven't seen a whole lot of it, but it's very, like it still has a lot of woodland, still has a lot of places for these creatures just to kind of like thrive and exist. Why it chose Michigan, I don't know. I mean, Michigan is surrounded by a lot of water, so I mean, maybe it's just convenient living space. Maybe it just likes the environment. It's kind of hard to put yourself in the mindscape of a cryptid.
Right. Well, once you get past Ann Arbor, right there in that almost middle line of Michigan, going north, it's pretty woodsy. It's pretty not very populated.
It's pretty dense.
What I actually thought from the beginning would have been, these things came down from Canada, right? They were way up in that Ontario. I mean, so let's go back in time. There's Asians in the Orient, and there's white people in Europe, and there's Indians in North America, and supposedly Sasquatch and Bigfoot. And maybe there were these dog creatures way up there in Canada, way up north, and maybe they migrated down, right? And I want to think that. That to me makes a lot of sense. If we were segregated in the beginning, however we got on this earth and how we were segregated the way we were. But I'm thinking they would have had to cross the Mackinac Bridge area, right? Not before the bridge was done. Do you think these things can swim across that? Do you think that's what happened? Do you think they could have migrated down from this way huge vast area up north and come down from Canada? I mean, you've been there, right? You're there. So
yeah, it could have been a migration thing, because there's really not that great of a distance between Windsor and Detroit, or at least where Windsor and Detroit are now. Like then it was woodland. So these dogmen, if they are like have been here before us and just kind of migrated around and ended up in Michigan, they could have swam across between where Detroit and Windsor is now, and then just kind of spread around, or it could have come down through like the prairie provinces down through like Montana, and then kind of swung around that way because it's all land border there. It's an interesting theory. Like I originally thought the Dogman was kind of like a werewolf scenario, like where it's European settlers or Native Americans who are like cursed to become these things, these like Dogmen.
Is that what you think they are now?
I really can't say what I think they are now. Like I'm still trying to wrap my head around their existence. Like I was very content knowing, okay, there's Bigfoot and there's, all these other things. And then I'm sitting in a car and there's this big, man wolf. And I'm like, what? Okay, no, all right. Reevaluation time. I mean, the only person I've ever really told is my current wife. Because she's like me. She loves the cryptids and everything. Like for Easter last year, I bought her a little 3D printed Mothman.
So what did she say when you told her?
She listened very patiently as I kind of stumbled my way through trying to remember the story. And she believed me. Like she looked in my eyes and she didn't see a word of lie in me. Like she knew I was telling her the truth.
Yeah, we believe you too. I know you feel like that people probably don't, but I mean, why would you bring that up? I mean, you have nothing to gain from that. You know that, right? So
no.
I don't want you to feel like you're here in a safe place and we're talking to you and people believe you. So
that's why I reached out to you guys in the first place. Because I mean, I like listening to you guys. You don't ridicule the people you're talking to,
mm-hmm.
Right?
You're very open-minded,
and that's why we started this podcast, so people could actually, get on here and get it off their chest. I mean, some people are living with this encounter for years and years and never told anybody, and that's not healthy.
No.
So, Cam, in your opinion, do you think there's a lot of these creatures up there in Michigan or around?
Well, I mean, they've been sighted since 1880, so I mean, there has to be a sizable breeding population of these things. So, yeah, I do believe that there should be there's a good number of them in Michigan, maybe even beyond Michigan. Like, who knows how far they may have gone in modern times.
Yeah, we hear so much about Wisconsin as well. So that's why I kind of have that Canadian theory or Canada theory. Maybe they migrated down that way from dense population way back, like they're supposed to stay there, but they haven't. But the weird thing is we've had encounters in Florida. People have seen these things in Florida or Texas or even California. So it's not like going out and I'm going to look for a Bigfoot today.
Yeah.
No matter where you're at in the United States or wherever, you might see one of these dogman creatures, and heaven forbid you survive that thing, right?
Yeah. Hopefully it's a good distance away.
Do you think that creature that you saw was dangerous? Do you think it would have done you harm if you'd have been out there walking around in its presence?
Well, I feel with cryptids, with any animal, as long as you're not showing any sign of being a threat to it, then it's going to leave you alone. Because in all my years of reading books on cryptids and everything, and I'm like, I'm turning 40 this year, so it was a long time reading books. Like all these encounters are usually they are within like a good pace of these things, or they're brandishing a weapon of some sort, and and the creature feels threatened. Like if you see a bear in the woods, if you're a good enough distance away, the bear's not going to do anything. But if you're in close proximity or you're between it and its cub, it's going to go, totally bonkers, right?
So how old were you, did you say, when you saw this creature?
I was Oh, cripes. It must have been, I think, 25, 26.
Okay. So you said you're turning 40, so 15 years. Do you still think about it a lot?
I do at times, yeah. Just, because, I mean, how can you forget, a cryptid sighting? Like, it's going to stick with you. Like, I think back to, when I went to Loch Ness and, like, yeah, I didn't see anything, but I just felt like there was a presence, like, something was always like watching you. And that stuck with me. And then seeing the Dogman also just kind of like stuck with me to the point where it just like every once in a while when I'm like asleep or just going to sleep, the image that creature will pop up in my head every once in a while. It was kind of surreal, really.
Yeah, I mean, how could it not?
Yeah.
If I would have seen it, I'd still think about it.
I mean, I feel kind of, blessed that I got to see, something unusual in this world instead of, all the usual human unusual stuff.
Yeah, that's a lucky thing. Most people don't get to see that in their lifetime.
No.
So,
I mean, my dad in the 60s, he hitchhiked from where we are in Ontario all the way to British Columbia and never saw anything. And he was in prime, Bigfoot territory, and he didn't see anything. And I'm sitting in a car in the middle of backwoods Michigan, and there's this, wolf creature.
That's how they happen. That's how these things happen. Places you would never expect, times you would never expect, and just, oh my gosh, you would not believe this. It's not like we do not get a lot of encounters where a guy goes, so I drove to Oregon or I flew to Oregon. I went up Mount Hood. I took this Salmon River Trail that I was hoping to see a Bigfoot, and there I saw them hanging out and they yelled at me. And that's not how these things happen. It's a guy who was taking the trash out in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, at a back of a restaurant that butts up to a woods, and he sees one crawl out of a dumpster, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I had a buddy I used to work with. He died a few years ago of cancer, but he had a cabin out in BC, and he was stepping out to barbecue, and he just looked up, and there was a Bigfoot just like about 50 feet away from him, just staring at him from behind a tree. And he just kind of like waved at it, and it just kind of turned and left.
I think we are watched a lot more by them than people think.
They're as curious about us as we are, though. But they've learned, we have guns, and it's best just to stay away.
Yeah, I believe that. I think they saw what we've done to the Indians when we came over here, and I think them and the Indians had some things. They had a closer relationship than what we realize, and I think that they saw what happened, and they could retreat and go back in the woods and hide, and the Indians could not. They stood and fought, and I think they saw that,
and then just reveal themselves to whom they feel worthy of knowing of their existence.
Yeah, we can say that for Bigfoot. I don't know about Dogman. I don't know if that's a totally different kind of thing or what's going on there. I mean,
I'm feeling Dogman is a little bit more of a I'm out hunting and you just happen to see me kind of thing. It's a definitely, if I had not been in a car, I would have fudged my Huggies kind of situation.
So were you driving? Did you say you were driving or you were a passenger?
My ex-wife was driving. I was in the passenger seat.
And did she see this creature as well?
She did not. No, she was kind of too busy complaining about the traffic.
So you didn't tell her what you saw, or you did tell her?
I kept him. The thing about my ex-wife, and I don't like talking negatively about people. It's just not my nature. It's not how I was raised. But she didn't think on the same wavelength that I do. So if I said, "Oh, I saw a weird dog creature in the woods over there," she goes, "No, it's just a bush."
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
Like we were not on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Closed-minded she was, huh? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
That's how
now, if I told,
that's how I like to put it.
if I told my current wife, she'd be pulling the car over and going, "Okay, where is it?"
Yeah, well, definitely. I would have done the same thing. Yeah, for sure. Well, Cam, we appreciate you being with us tonight, man, and talking about your Dogman sighting. The more we can get on the show, the more we can help people understand that these things are possibly out there and things are going on.
Yeah, well, it's been a great honor to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
And more places that we can go look ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you ever go out hiking, or would you go out hiking after you saw this creature, Cam? Just got to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely like to go, like I'm not too far from Algonquin Park, like the big provincial park up here in Ontario. And I would love to like hit a hiking trail there and see, what could possibly be hiding there besides bear and moose.
I bet there's something going on in that park.
Yeah.
Oh, it's huge, so there's probably something in there.
So you wouldn't be afraid to see one again? You're not threatened by him? You don't think?
Dogman, I probably wouldn't want to see again.
Okay.
No.
Bigfoot, definitely. I would love to see Bigfoot.
Sure. That's how I feel.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Although I will take a Dogman encounter as long as I live.
Yeah, as long as there's a car between you and the Dogman.
Yeah.
All right, Cam. Hey, man. Thanks again for being with us tonight, brother. We appreciate it.
No problem.
We appreciate it. We appreciate listening, too. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem at all.
All right, man. Take care. You see anything else, get a hold of us.
Yeah, get a hold of us.
I will definitely.
And you be safe out there, too.
Yeah, you too.
All right. See ya.
All right,
bye-bye.
All right, man. That was cool talking to Cameron. Crazy Dogman encounter.
Dogman, yeah.
These things are everywhere up in Michigan, man. What is going on?
It's wild. We need to go hunt them down.
Yeah, let's go hunt them down. You first. You go first.
Yeah, okay.
You're gonna be in front of the lead, FYI.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And somebody behind me. So.
Piece of cake.
Anyway, all right. Next guests are Athena and Henry, and they saw some strange flying entities, or some strange UFOs things going on. So
UFOs.
Yeah, we'll see what's happening with them. So you ready to bring them on?
Yep. Let's get them.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you guys tonight?
Good. Doing good. Appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we'll get started here. You had contacted us, sent us an email, said that you had a couple UFO experiences or encounters. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. There was one when I was a child, so like maybe the late 90s, and then one was recently. It was either September or October of that just passed, so 2022.
And where did these happen at?
So they were both in, I don't know how specific I can be, but they were in Charles County, Maryland. So this was Southern Maryland.
Okay.
You can be as specific as you want to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, I guess I'll start with the one that prompted me to call. So this is the one that just was, like I said, September, October. So this was not the Falcon X rocket. I can tell you that much, because I know that did launch like late September, but this was not what we saw. So this was between like 10 and 11 o'clock. We were driving home southbound through Charles County, and it's a fairly rural area. There's not like a whole lot of lights or houses or anything in this particular area. And I was just kind of looking out the window on the passenger side, and I saw it looked like a plane at first, the way the lights were oriented. And I was just kind of thinking about it as I was watching it, that it was kind of large, like larger than what I expected, and pretty close to the ground. And it was going very slowly. So I watched it for a few minutes, and, I was like, oh, maybe it's a plane, like a small plane, but it kind of confused me. So I mentioned to my boyfriend, Henry, I said, hey, can you look out the window? Like, what is this? I don't know what I'm seeing. And he glanced out the window and he's like, speculated, is it like a plane maybe? And I was like, I don't think it's a plane. So then he said, well, is it the radio tower? Because there's a radio tower out there that you can see pretty well. And I said, no, I don't think we've passed the radio tower at this point. I don't think that's the radio tower. And he kind of watched it. He was driving, so he's kind of like leaning out the window watching it. And he says to me, I don't know what that is. And we're both kind of watching it, and we realized there's actually two of these. It wasn't just one set of lights. So there was actually two, one in front of the other. And they were flying, I guess, pretty much parallel to the highway. It's like two lanes on each side. And they were flying pretty much right next to us. And not any kind of plane that I've ever seen. If it was a plane, I don't know what it was. Sure enough, we come up on the radio tower. The radio tower is on the whole opposite side of the road. And it has a flashing red light. And we're still seeing these two sets of lights to our right-hand side. And then we kind of thought, well, maybe is it like a drone of, some type, trying to think of what it could be. But it didn't seem to be anything like that either. And you couldn't see like a silhouette or any kind of outline of anything that it could have been. And we were going like maybe 65 miles an hour. Eventually, we passed the lights. So like I said, they were going very slow. And we passed them, and they were out of our line of sight. And we couldn't really think of what it could have been. And we talked about it the whole way home, and neither one of us thought it was a plane. Neither one of us thought it was a drone. Definitely not a helicopter.
Was it making any noise that you could tell?
No, so like a low plane. So I've lived close to, I guess it's called Joint Base Andrews now, which is in Clinton, Maryland. So they have, C-17s and C-130s that combine. They would go over the houses, and you can hear those, fairly well. I mean, they're not like the loudest, but you can definitely hear them, and you can see them even when it's dark, because from the neighborhood they fly over. In Waldorf, you can kind of see like the outline of the plane, and I didn't notice anything like that. So it didn't seem to me like to be like a large plane. Plus, why would it be so low to the ground? Like, these things were very low to the ground.
How low do you think they were, or how far from the ground would you say?
I don't know. Henry's with me. He's actually, do you have any idea that you would think like how low they were? Maybe a couple hundred feet? Yeah, maybe. He says about 500 to 600 feet. It was nighttime. I mean, but they were definitely going, not too high above where like the tree line and, things like that would be. It wasn't that much higher than that. I mean, maybe a couple hundred feet above that.
Could you tell how far apart the farthest distance between any of the lights on these things were? Or could you estimate?
It's kind of hard to say. I mean, I would say there was about maybe 4 or 5 lights in a row. So it kind of made me think, maybe a plane, how they would be oriented on a plane. But like I said, it was 2 sets of them. I don't know how far apart the spacing of the lights were, but the 2 sets that we saw, maybe a couple hundred yards, they were pretty close together. Maybe like 2 planes to fly, or, safely, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How many lights did you say per object were there? Just one, or was there more than one light per?
Maybe 4 or 5, maybe 4 to 6, and like I said, it kind of made me think of a plane. They were definitely in a row, but none of them were flashing. There weren't any like red lights like you would see sometimes on like a plane or a helicopter. And it was 2 straight rows, one in front of the other.
They were just traveling that way, parallel with each other, but sideways, so to speak? Is that what you're saying? Or were they...
Yeah, so it kind of like, if you think of like the lights were like next to me and then going like, not like straight ahead, but to the side, I guess.
So you were talking about how many lights these had, and they were in a road, the way they were traveling low to the ground. You knew it wasn't a helicopter. What color did you say these lights were?
They were maybe like, I don't know, like a white or like a light bluish maybe? What color would you say, Henry? They weren't, like a white. They weren't like, not like red, definitely not flashing. They were definitely solid lights. We thought about all kinds of different things they could be. I couldn't think of anything it could have been, but just the way they were flying, it didn't, and like like I said, the height of where they were, it didn't seem to me like it could have been like reasonably like a plane. I don't imagine a plane would fly that low over open, right. 2 of them right one in front of the other. It was really strange.
If you just take one of the sets of lights or one of these things, how big could you think you could estimate it to be? Or how big do you think each one of these things were?
From one side to the other? Geez. From where we were on the ground, maybe 50 to 100 feet between the first light and the farthest light on one set.
Okay.
Wow.
It's hard to, it's hard to tell when you're on the ground.
No, I get it. We're just asking and hoping you can
it's
answer.
Hard to judge.
How far away from you guys do you think these objects were?
Not that far. Like I said, they were flying almost pretty much parallel to the road, maybe a couple, tens of yards. I mean, not that far. And like I said, they were really slow. We were going maybe about 65 miles an hour. We came on them and passed it. And eventually we, as we were driving, we lost it out of our line of sight, in the mirrors and stuff. It was weird. It was very weird.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think you guys were passing them?
From the moment that I noticed it, just kind of, passively looking out the window to when we passed it and lost it, maybe about like 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 7 minutes. It wasn't a very long time.
So it was going, obviously, as slow as you guys, less than what your speed was.
Yeah.
Something that low to the ground, going that slow. Yeah, you think a helicopter, but you guys said there's no way it was a helicopter. You would have heard it.
No, right? I mean, like a helicopter, you would, I've seen helicopters at night. Most of the time they have like a flashing light, or sometimes they'll be shining, like a light onto the ground or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But no, this wasn't anything like that, and definitely no noise. So if it was something like that was close to me, like a helicopter, I would expect to hear, some type of noise.
I know it's illegal, but it couldn't have been a couple idiots and some ultralights or anything like that either, right?
And, to be fair...
Was it dark? It was nighttime, obviously.
It was definitely nighttime. This was like between 10 and 11 o'clock at night.
But I don't think those things even have those kind of lights on them. I don't know. Something going
you don't
that
see
slow.
Those light too much.
Yeah. I don't know what else it would be. If it's not a helicopter, if it's going that slow, a plane's not going to travel that slow. It'll drop. Yeah, you got me. I don't know.
Yeah, and then we thought maybe drone, maybe like a larger kind of drone, but I couldn't
Yeah,
see
but if it was a drone and it was that low, you definitely would have heard it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There was no noise, and I couldn't see any kind of like an outline or shape to it from where I was sitting. And like I said, I've seen, like those large aircraft before, coming over the house at night, and you can kind of make it out, and you're like, oh, that's a plane, It's pretty obvious, what those are as they land at that Air Force base. But this was just kind of just out there. It was just lights, nothing that you could really see or make out what it could have been. That was why, but yeah, that was the most recent one. Like I said, this was around September or October that just passed. So
it's hard to say, being that it's close to you said an Air Force base, a military base, what they could be prototyping and messing with out there these days.
I know,
but if that's not
it's hard. But I've never. Yeah, but we're where we saw them. It's quite a few miles from where they're at. Usually, this is like heading into Virginia. And I mean, there are a lot, and like I said, it's a UFO, and, I don't know, is it extraterrestrial? Who knows? It could have just been something military. We never know. I mean, there's all, we live in the DC, Maryland, Virginia region. There's all kinds of military bases and, things out here. Who knows what it could have been.
You saying that makes me kind of hope that's what it was. Because if there's some UFOs out there flying in that area, then we really got to shape it up with our military.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have really been anything that I would have thought much of. But like I said, this was kind of my second kind of incident with this type of thing. Because like I had mentioned, I had a previous one as a child. Like around 1997, 1998, in the same county, but miles from where this was. And this one actually, so this one involved my dad. I was a kid, I was about maybe 6 or 7 years old. We were in the car, and it was nighttime. I can't tell you what time of year it was, what time of night it was. I was so little, but it was definitely nighttime. And my dad just started saying, like, what is that? What is that? And he started driving just, not toward our house, just somewhere completely different. And started taking all these back roads and kept saying there was something that he was looking at, some kind of light. And I remember we pulled up to this parking lot at the base of a different radio tower many miles from this other one. And he pulled up and jumped out of the car. And while we were there, another gentleman pulled up in a car and jumped out. And my dad was like, "Did you see those lights?" And the guy was like, "Yeah." My dad said, "I thought it was the radio tower." And the guy said, "So did I. But that's not the radio tower," because we're right at the radio tower. And, they both just started talking about what it could have been, what they were following. I mean, they both followed it to the same spot thinking it was the same thing, and it wasn't what they had seen. And I don't ever remember what the outcome of that was. I guess I was about 6 or 7 years old, but that event stuck in my mind. To this day, it's something that I remember very clearly.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, my dad would always be looking for UFOs, and he'd always think that he saw something out there, that just couldn't be a plane, what have you.
Yeah, it had to be something else, right?
If he did or didn't. But I was going to say on your other encounter, there's no way that could have been a drone either, because no one's going to fly a drone at 50, 60 miles an hour. I don't know if they go that fast. They might. For that long of a period away from them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or going down the highway, I don't think you can control it after so much distance. Now, it could be a high-tech one, but have to be a huge drone on top of it.
That is a very good point. And like I said, we both were just kind of like stumped about what that could have been. And there are some, naval kind of bases out there, but where their position and where we saw this thing, they had to, if there was something they were flying, they would have had to taken this thing so far out of the way. It wouldn't have even made sense. There's a more direct route, that they could have taken instead of going way out of the way out to this highway and going straight next to the road. It doesn't make any sense to me, So, but yeah, those are my stories. It's just kind of what I saw.
Have there been any other recent or any other UFO reports in that area that you know of besides the ones you saw?
So not that I heard, but like I said, my boyfriend Henry, he did tell me, I think yesterday or this morning, that someone had reported something in Roanoke, Virginia, which is a couple hours from here, that they had also seen something. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find anything, but I might not have been searching for the right type of, whatever he had seen. He saw it on like a news page that he follows. But there's not too much that I hear about here in Virginia of people sighting, lights or UFOs or, things of that nature. I've never spoken to anybody, honestly, about anything that I've seen. You guys are pretty much the first, so congratulations.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Wow, that's awesome.
You and Henry both.
I just kind of kept
Thank you for choosing us on it.
Yeah, for real. Like I said, I just kind of was like, maybe this is the time to tell somebody,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially now because, things have been coming to light and more.
Yeah, for sure. In the last couple of years.
Around the country and the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's important for people to, like I said, I didn't really tell anyone. People kind of look at you weird and, okay, but there are a lot of people that do believe, there's, people have seen things and, what the origin is or where they're from. I think it's important that people tell these stories. It's good to have records of things, that way we can reference back and say, this is what's been going on.
Exactly. Yep.
And even if it's just calling out the government on something that they're prototyping, that's still, to me, that's still kind of cool,
for sure.
They're trying to keep it a secret out there. I understand why they would if it's military based, but still, to find something out there that's we've never seen before, no matter where it comes from, is kind of cool in itself, right?
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that as well.
What did you guys do after you saw that thing?
We were heading home. We were both working in Northern Virginia, and where we were at work, it was easier to come. Traffic is terrible, so it was easier to come through Maryland and go back home than it would have been to double back through Virginia and go home. So we were just coming home from work. I told my kids when I got home, my kids, they also listen to your podcast. They're also big into, things like this. So I told them, and
cool.
They were kind of like, okay, Mom,
What are their names?
Avery and Aurora, my 2 girls.
Avery and Aurora. Hello.
Hello, Avery and Aurora.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and I told them, I think the only other people I've really talked to were, my sister, my brother, which just kind of in between us and the family. And, and that's kind of, I haven't really told my friends. I've never told anybody I work with, or any like cousins or anything like that.
I think sometime real soon here, we're all gonna find out.
Oh yeah,
whether we're ready to or not. I think we're all gonna find out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a news to a lot of people.
Wait a minute. Hold on, Brian. You're scaring me. What are you talking about, man?
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, you never know. You don't know.
Be ready.
If there are aliens out there, where are they coming from, and why are they here? There's so many things and possibilities. People believe that they're not from outer space. They're actually from inside the Earth. That people see these things come up out of the water.
Some say the hollow Earth theory. Some say interdimensional. Some say.
Yeah, I heard
there's so many.
Someone told me like an ice wall. There's so many things.
That's the flat Earth.
The flat Earth, the ice wall theory, and they're coming from but there's so many, and as Todd was saying, it could just be the government. Maybe we're all just being duped, which to me is, I think aliens, personally, I would rather be aliens than such a government pulling a fast one on us, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'd rather have aliens spying on us than the government, right?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's just, I've never seen anything like that before. I've lived, in Maryland, Virginia. I lived in California for 2 years, and it's only in this one particular spot I had this strange, So I don't know if it's just this area. I don't know if anyone else has seen anything.
I think it's mostly just that area because that is there's a lot of military activity around there. There's a lot of governmental activity around there.
Absolutely.
A lot of stuff going on that would interest foreign people.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out here. And I wish, as much as I do appreciate, my privacy on this, I kind of wish that I had maybe spoken to some other people, just to kind of see if anyone else has seen anything. But I don't know how you bring that up to somebody in a conversation,
Well, when we get this episode out there, we're going to find out, hopefully.
Hey, that's for sure.
Yep.
Hopefully some more people out there will come forward and say what they've seen.
I hope so, yeah. I know I'm not the only person. You hear stories of, hundreds and thousands of people that have seen things. I'm just, just glad that it's just something that, you can relate to,
Yeah, but, and how many people are just like you out there that see it and just don't say anything.
Yeah, and don't say anything.
Because they don't want to be made fun of.
And like I said, the first one I ever saw was in the 90s. It's 2023. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
Does anything else go on around that area besides UFO stuff? Like, have you heard of any kind of Bigfoot activity or anything like that?
No. We do. This is Maryland, Virginia, so there is a lot of you think back to colonial era and things like that. A lot of people get big into Henry was just saying witchcraft and things like that.
Haunted. That area is very haunted out there.
Yeah, and I have a book. It's called Weird Maryland that I bought at a gift shop, but it does detail some of the more interesting things and folklore from Maryland. I know a lot of people, whether it's true or not, they, based on the movie, they like to go out in the woods and search for the Blair Witch and all this stuff. But a lot of people do go out there and they mess around and say they find things out there that maybe they weren't necessarily looking for,
Yeah, I like those. I have a Weird Oregon and a Weird Michigan book. I know which one you're talking about. I think they got one for
I have the Weird Maryland.
They're really cool because you read about things that you didn't know existed in your own state if you didn't happen to get that. Or in Michigan, which is close to us, for example, there's a lot of stuff going on up there I never heard of before that, Brian and I could spend hours talking about just doing shows on. So those are really neat books.
Yeah. But we like
they do
people.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in there I had never heard before. I mean, like different, things people had seen, and like little, animals people had claimed to see back in like the colonial, times, like the 1600s.
The snallygaster.
The snallygaster.
Oh yeah, the snallygaster. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's what we have going on out here. We're fairly new to Virginia. We've been out here for about 6 years now, but we've spent most of our time in Maryland and DC. So I don't know what goes on out here in Virginia too much. There is a lot of you're talking about hauntings and things like that. I mean, the Civil War. There's a lot of stuff out here. We're not too far from where. From Point Lookout, Maryland, which is, they say it's haunted. That it does have Civil War soldiers, like Confederate soldiers, that were kept as prisoners. Mm-hmm. And then also John Wilkes Booth. We live about maybe 20-30 minutes from where he was killed.
Oh, his ghost has got to be around there somewhere.
Yeah, so that's not too far from us. It's just, like I said, about 20-30 minutes down the road from here.
Oh, cool.
I always liked it out there on the East Coast. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely neat. We live on, I guess you follow it from, I guess it originates in DC, Henry, and comes all the way down to Richmond. It's called the Civil War Trail. And it goes past like Dr. Mudd's house and, through Southern Maryland and into this part of Virginia and down toward Richmond. So there's a lot of different things out here.
That'd be fun.
And of course, Roanoke, the history of Roanoke and all that. So
yeah, that one's a weird one too.
The
whole
that could have been aliens.
Comes up missing.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, and
that could have been aliens.
Yeah, and like I said, I've never been down there, but that's where Henry was saying that the latest sighting that somebody saw lights was down in Roanoke, which I've heard before that people have said they've seen lights in the woods and lights in the sky down in that area. Yeah.
How long have people been reporting UFOs? Do we know?
Since recorded history, I'm sure.
So if these things have been coming around that long, and
they talk about them in the Bible,
haven't done anything to us, or other than abduct 2 or 3 people here and there and do a body scan or whatever they do on them, they haven't done anything to us and haven't even announced themselves. Then why do you think they're there? What do you think they're doing? And why do you think they're there?
I don't know.
I think we're just a big experiment. I think they're just watching us and seeing what's going to happen.
Observation, yeah. I think a big part of it is observation. Mm-hmm. To see how we progress as a species.
Every few hundred years or so, they come down, make some tweaks, and then off they go again.
Yeah, as large and as vastless as this universe is, there has to be something out there. I don't think that this planet could be here for how many billions of years that they say it's been here, and nothing has been by. That doesn't seem
we're not the only
probable. Something has been by this planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I think like all the other planets that are what I call dead planets, Jupiter, Mars, planets that seem not to have any life on them, which are all of them but ours, right? I wonder if they didn't have life form on them at some time and something happened and that planet's just dead. It was an experiment, like Brian said. They said, you know what, this ain't working, let's forget this one, let's go on to the other one. Let's create
another one. Yeah, move over to the.
Of course, we're talking
go down
about
the line.
Aliens
so they kept,
creating us.
Maybe they kept going. Hey, let's keep tweaking these things. And as they tweaked this, they had to move us to a different, like closer to the sun, because our physiologies are changing. So Mars is still cold, and.
Who knows?
All those other planets are way too cold. They had to keep moving us, and then when they got us to Earth, they're like, "All right, this is it."
It's got the atmosphere. It's got the good climate.
That's going into a whole new subject of our aliens, angels, and God, and who created.
That's a whole other show. That's a whole different show.
We appreciate you guys taking the time to be on tonight, Athena and Henry. While you guys are traveling,
yeah, man, it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for letting us share our story and
no problem.
And getting out there to people.
Yeah, keep your eyes open and let us know if anything else happens out there.
Yeah, sounds good. If I see anything, I'll write down. Let you guys know.
All right.
Absolutely.
You guys take care. Tell your daughters hello.
Tell your daughters.
All right, I will. Thank you so much. You guys have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
All right, man. It was cool having Athena and Henry on talking about those strange flying things.
I like the UFO stuff. Sometimes.
UFOs.
Nice change of pace.
Yeah, I do too. It was awesome having those guys on, talking to them tonight. So again, everyone, thanks for listening so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Always fun, man. Always learning.
If you've had an encounter and seen a cryptid creature and you want to be on the show, email us. What's that email address, Brian?
info@cryptidcreatures.co.
That's right.
That's the email.
So we'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks again for listening. Brian, my friend, awesome hanging out with you as always, brother.
Always fun. Always learning.
All right, man. Can't wait till the next show. Until then, I will see you later. What do you say?
Yep. See ya.